back to Money Conversations with Everyday People. I'm your host, Rukayat, and today we're tackling a topic that touches every household: the family finance discussion, talking money as a team. Money can be a tricky topic, even with the people we are closest to. Today, we're diving into how real families navigate finances together because it's not always smooth sailing, right? We want to hear about the real challenges and the real wins. And I'm incredibly excited to introduce our special guest today, Enoch, who will share his experiences navigating money as a family. Enoch, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Rukayat. I'm looking forward to this, what I hope will be an exciting conversation and hopefully some moments of reflection for me as well.
Definitely, definitely. So, Enoch, to get us started, could you tell us a bit about your family dynamic and how money plays a role? Perhaps how it's evolved over time.
Yes, absolutely. So, I've got a wife, we both work, we both earn, and we've got two young children. So yeah, over time, like most of the time we've been together, we've both been working. There are moments where maybe wife wasn't working and I was the only one working, but most of our time together as a family, we've both been earning income and bringing that into the family.
Amazing. So, how do you approach money conversation then? Is it a regular thing, or do you have specific times you talk about it?
It's it's not a regular thing per se. So once we've set something in place around, okay, this is what we're trying to do for the next maybe next 3 months or 1 year, it sort of just runs, and it's every once in a while that we may need to sort of talk about money, but generally we don't once we've set that process in place. So myself, I'm an accountant, so very familiar with money. My wife studied accounting as well, even though she's not practicing. So again, she is familiar with numbers and money. So it's something we are familiar with, and then just general discipline around money. We are broadly aligned, but it's we have those big conversations around. Okay, this is what we're trying to achieve, and then once we've had that big conversation, then the rest of the conversations around money is usually small, tiny conversations here and there.
Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the big conversations, right? When you have this big conversation about money, what have you kind of faced biggest what are the biggest challenges you've kind of faced in communicating about finances and money? Because you mentioned that both of you are both from accounting background and you know how to deal with money, but has there been like big challenges you faced when you're communicating about finances, especially in the family household? Would you like to
Yeah,
share?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So even though we are both accountants and all that, and we both earn, there are when we're having money conversations. For me, at the beginning, it was quite it was weird talking about money with my wife when we first got married, just because before then I just been managing my own money, and now I felt I had to be accountable to someone and tell the person this is what I'm thinking of doing, this is what I'm doing. So at the beginning, it was awkward. Whenever the conversation around money is about to kick off, I feel comfortable, and my wife picked up on that around, why are you usually uncomfortable around when we talk about money? And it's not the case that I had something to hide. I just found it weird having to be accountable, having to explain things to someone. But we've been together now for 11 years. So over those years, things have smoothened themselves out. And then again, our attitude towards money, even though broadly aligned, there are still differences. We are two different people, right? So even when we do commit, when we come to that level of commitment around this is what we're trying to do, it can be challenging around, these are the sacrifices we will need to make. And maybe it can be more of a sacrifice to someone than the other person. And it's sort of getting the other person on board, getting them aligned, and, you know, yeah, having that big tough conversation that one time, and then once that conversation is had, then we don't sort of revisit it, and we sort of go from there. So that's how money conversation has sort of flown in this family around. We
Mm.
commit. I'll give you an example. When we got married back in 2014, and our i- immediately our first big challenge was not big challenge. First big task was we need to buy our own house, and wanted to do it as quickly as possible. it was the case of, okay, how do we earn as much income and all that? So we went out. I mean, we thought about the best way to earn income, and we, based on where we were in life and the skills we had, and we both went and maximized our income generation ability. And then it was the case of having that conversation around all the money coming in. So
Mm.
we're not living the way we're earning. If you saw the way we're living, it didn't match how we're earning, because we're earning a lot, but we're living, I guess you could say, penury. I
Yeah.
was doing the budget down to the
Frugal.
penny.
Frugal,
Yeah,
basically.
frugal, yeah.
Yeah.
Frugal, yeah. I was doing the budgeting down to pennies back then. I was using Excel to do that back in 2014, 2015. But it was again to keep us disciplined around all the money coming in. Let's pay the basics, I mean the essentials that we need to pay, and just
Mm.
bank the rest. And the good thing about that was we're both aligned on that goal of we need to buy our own house. So my wife was able to close her eyes to things she would normally want. I mean, my wife, what she's like. She's a very stylish individual. She loves some beautiful things in life. But that moment, she was able to just switch off. And fortunately for me, when my wife Shade, once she switches into that goal mode of we're trying to achieve this, she can easily just sort of close her eyes to those things and just focus on the goal of, okay, we need to achieve this by so time. So that was one our first big project together as a family around, money, around all the money we're earning. We're just packing it up and banking it until we got to that point where we eventually bought our own house. And that took a lot of sacrifices. However, fortunately for us, the goal was aligned. And I know this is a challenge for some other families. That goal around we need to buy our house as soon as possible was aligned. So it was easy to make those sacrifices together. I'm not saying it was smooth sailing. There were challenges along the way. There were conversations around, should we do this or should we not do this? One person is saying we should, the other person is saying we shouldn't. And ultimately, it went in one way and maybe it didn't favor the other person, but that sacrifice had to be made, and sometimes compromises had to be made. But overall, we're still together 11 years later. So I think somehow it's not broken
Amazing.
us as a family or as a couple.
Yeah, I think it's from what you've said, it's kind of like shows the importance of transparency in your financial relationship, basically, because you mentioned okay about the house building, but also your wife, she's very stylish, and it's more like okay, let's step back a bit and really focus on the important goals and see how that kind of meets in the middle, which is super important when it comes to transparency. And this is what I got from what you're talking about. But then do you share everything? Right, because you've mentioned about the house, which is kind of like sharing at the beginning. So do you share everything, or do you kind of keep some things separate when it comes to finances?
To share everything, do you mean share all my expenses or share all my income? Which
Yes. So in when it comes to finances, you kind of sit down to say, okay, this is how we're going to break it down. We share it, or do you keep? Are there some things that you kind of keep separate to say, okay, I'm dealing with this, Shade, you're dealing with that,
Oh yeah,
basically. Yeah.
yes, yeah. And I think that has happened, that evolved naturally. When we got married, I was working, Shade wasn't working immediately. So automatically all the bills came through me. So till today, all the bills run through me. The other day we're trying to complete some application for something, and they said that they needed to show proof of, when they want utility bills. And that was when we thought, there's actually no utility bill in your name because everything runs through me. And that
Mm.
has been the case since we've been married, and that has always been the case around, all utility bills running through me, and uh, all the income Shade earns, bank. There's a percentage that, okay, this is your pocket money, use that as you want. I'm not interested in what you spend that money on, but this
Mm.
part of it, bank for the family. And
Mm.
then bit of my own income as well, bank for the family. So that's sort of how we've done it. Where so we don't do this. We split expenses 50-50 and all that. We don't do that. It's just the way our family has evolved is evolved in such a way that just starts with me naturally. So when we've moved over time, and whenever we move, I'm the one setting up the Wi-Fi. I'm the one setting up the TV and all that. So naturally, I just put everything under my name. The mortgage goes through my account. Everything runs through my account. So my account at the end of the month screams heavily because everything runs through me. But Shadi's account is super clean, and she just takes the bit she needs to spend for herself, which has been agreed by both of us, and then the rest bank.
Mm. So for what I'm getting now, it's kind of like separate accounts, right? Not necessarily joint accounts where
No,
perhaps goes into okay, super. And
a
yeah,
joint
I
account.
you've
We've had a joint account before when we were trying to buy the house back then, originally back in 2014, 2015. I can't remember what happened to that account. I think once we bought the house, that account just died a natural death, and we've just kept our individual accounts. So when I say savings, we put the savings in. Shade put some savings at her end. I put some savings at my end. He has access to my account. I have access to her account. So it's not the case that you can't see what's on my end. I can't see what's on your end. So and at the end of the year as well, we then do this. We take stock around at the beginning of the year, we expected that you should have these savings. So let's see what you have. Okay, you have it. Okay, at the beginning of the year, we say you should have these savings. Let's see. Okay, we've got that amount that we planned at the beginning of the year. Okay, let's go use it to do what we plan to use that fund for. So that's of how we do it. We don't have a joint account. It's separate account, and the separate account is not intentional. It's just happened. So there's nothing stopping us now from having a joint account. We don't have anything against it. We just not had it since that original time that we
Mhm.
used to.
Super. So, I mean, that's quite interesting because when I talk to some couples, they tend to have like a joint account for like expenses and all that, but then separate accounts for their own savings and investing and whatever they want to do with it. But like you said, it was more like something that is just kind of a natural cause, which is fine. Like every family dynamic is kind of different. But then, how do you? Has there been any period where you've had like disagreements about spending or saving, right? When it comes to having the separate, but then you mentioned you guys kind of look at the savings, you take stock and whatnot. So has there been like disagreements around this area, or it's just been smooth sailing? And how do you handle this disagreement?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So there was a period. So when it came to me with this, I was thinking, how open am I going to be? But I think I'll be open so that those listening to this can maybe hopefully learn as much. There was a period when we had a target around, okay, this is the savings that should be at your end by the end of the year, and this is the savings that should be. And then when we got to the end of the year to take stock, we realized someone is short. All right. And I will mention who that party is. So when we found that, that was disappointing. The person thought they were going to be short, but they're going to fill that gap over the course of the year if they were able to make extra income from other places. But that did not materialize. So what we then did was, so again, then we decided collectively that, okay, maybe that individual or that party, it's just two of us, that party may have more challenges around discipline with, this money is untouchable, that type of thing. So what we decided was the big chunk of the savings, once that person is, at the end of the month, instead of leaving it in their accounts, they ship it to the other person's account. So that
Mhm.
way, then there's no temptation. You can't spend what you don't have. And that
Mm.
essentially, other party agreed because even they were disappointed with the fact that they've not met their own side of the equation, and the targets, what we're trying to achieve at that point in time, we was delayed slightly because of that. So, and
Mm.
that was good. Again, there's that. Maybe for some couple or for some families, that would have been an issue around, oh, you don't trust me anymore. And it wasn't a case of you don't trust me, it was a case of it doesn't make sense if money is sitting in that person's account because they have a tendency to say, let me just take a quick buck there and I'll put it back in. But then, it's November, it's December, and then you're not able to fill it back. And that fixed
Mm.
the problem. Boom, so we've not had that problem. So it was at that time, it was a difficult situation, was awkward.
Yeah.
But we're able to talk about it. And again, we are a couple, right? So the love is still underpinning that relationship. So it's around, okay, you know,
Mm.
it's that person holding up the hands to say, okay, I've messed up, and the other person being graceful as well to say, yeah, disappointed, but I get it. Okay, how do we move forward? How do we fix this? How do we make sure this does not happen again? Both parties agreeing to that fix and works for everyone. Everyone is happy.
Mm. Super. Thanks a lot for sharing this. And I think it also goes into like being transparent, but also when it comes to like communicating, right? Not going away from that difficult communication around what is happening and also kind of coming together to find a solution towards that. So, which moves me nicely
And,
to when, yeah,
and I would say as well, there was something there which is grace. You
yeah,
know, we can plan all these things all we want and we can be as robotic as we want, which we try to be. Ultimately, we're human, right? So, and it's two people, or maybe sometimes more than two people, but in our case, it's two people. So it's
mm,
about giving grace. And
yes,
sorry, I'm bringing my own religion into this and my own beliefs around just
that's fine.
forgiveness, forgiveness and all that. Because what could have happened is that person found they were short, and sometimes that's how something so tiny could end up leading to serious problem. And then they
Mm,
think, you know what, let me take 10 quid and go play the lottery and see if I can get that money back. And that could be the start of a problem. But instead
yeah.
of doing that, that person came out and said, "I've messed up. I'm short because I just, maybe moment of lapse on my part. So how
Mm,
do we move forward?" So again, it's letting playing if when you look at it from a family or from a couple dynamics, ensuring that that person knows that they can they can be vulnerable around you, because once we lose that vulnerability and once we lose the ability to make mistakes, that could be costly around people then being pushed into situations where they shouldn't be pushed into, and then they start having running this second life which you're not aware of, which may
mm,
blow up in your family's face 5 years later from them trying to
mm,
fix a problem because they're ashamed to come to you. So maybe
mm,
something there for folks around just be graceful and understand that people will make mistakes.
mm. I really like that, like when it comes to grace, right? Because, like you said, when a lot of people are thinking about money, they are often ashamed to talk about money or they get anxious about it because they might think, okay, maybe my partner might not be so gracious to what it is, right? And like you said, like in as much as everything is okay, rigid or not, when it comes to money, we also have to kind of give grace as well, like you mentioned, to really ensure that we're still vulnerable and able to walk through problems together. So thank you for kind of sharing that. It's an important aspect of it when it, especially when it comes to money, because a lot of people don't give grace towards money. It's just like okay, it's money, and then it actually impacts a lot of relationships as well. You've kind of mentioned the fact that when it comes to savings and all that, okay, you save, she saves, and other aspects of it. But how do you ensure that you're both on the same page when it comes to long-term financial planning? And when I talk about long-term financial planning, it's also kind of thinking about investing as well, because we have to differentiate between like saving and investing. So on the long term, how do you kind of set goals as a family, and what are some of these goals, and how are you ensuring that you're on the same page towards this long-term financial planning?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got long term goals as I'll say as a couple with regards to where we want to be financially in the future. And in our own situation, how it's worked in our situation is, as I said, I'm still in finance and my
Mm,
wife is no longer in finance. So what we do in this family is everybody play to your strength, right? So from that point of view, I tend to come up with the ideas of maybe we should be doing this ahead of for our future planning for our when we're in our 50s and 60s. I come up with the ideas and then we run it together around, oh, what do you think? Do you think we should do it here? That type of thing. And then again, because we're fortunate that we are surrounded by quite clever guys, right? My circle of friends are some really smart guys. They are doing what I would say is the right thing around planning for the future and all that. So there's all these conversations usually going on between me and my friends. So someone says, "Oh, have you done this? Have you heard of this? Or this is what I'm doing and all that." And then you're taking that, I'm bringing it back home, and I'm saying, "Oh, these guys said they're doing this. What do you think? I think that's a good idea, or nah, it's not for us. It's not ideal for our own situation." So we we try to plan our long-term financial goal around diversification, not just diversification of what we put our money in, but also diversification of where we put our money in. So, and that is geographical diversification. So again, because of my own background in finance, that just makes sense naturally. Around, don't just throw all your money in pension. What if the government fails you 40 years from now? Or don't just throw your money on properties. What if something happens? It's unlikely, but what if something happens and property really develops? So just spread your bets
Mm,
into different asset class, into different geographies, into just spread it as much as you can. So if one goes down, you still have three standing. If you know that type of thing. And
mm,
in our case, we're fortunate in the sense that Shade generally just says, yeah, that's a good idea. She generally agrees with me. And once we agree, then who is going to run that project? Is it me? Is it you? And then so someone owns the project and then goes away and runs it. And then again, for this to happen, it's us then making a commitment of, okay, we need to raise money. Okay, how much are we sacrificing? What do we need to do? And then we look into that again and then boom, we go.
mm. You touched upon something that was quite interesting that you have a conversation with your guys, like you have very smart people within your network that you guys discuss this. Does she have the same on the other end?
She does. She does. I don't know what conversations they have. It's very different to mine.
Why I ask is like both of us we because I'm in the investments and very much I love it when people have conversation. But what I see a lot is guys have conversation about money more than women, and this is one of the things that I try to like get more women to actually have more conversation about money. Most of the time is either like fashion, this and that, but not really money. So this is why I was asking like, does she have the same? Because it would be quite interesting to see exactly what she's also bringing in, right? With
Yeah,
that regard, and really ensuring that it's not just only the guys having this conversation, but how to get more women, right, when they're together to really have this conversation about money, about financial independence, and also not relying too much when it comes to finance. That okay, the guy should be dealing with that. So just wanted to kind of see what the
yeah.
dynamic is
So
to
I
when it
won't say
comes
I know
to
what conversations they have, but again,
Mm,
because our circle of friends are broadly similar to us, and I say
okay.
that in a lot of guys also work in financial services, right?
Mm,
And there's that thing around there, as I said, play to your strength. So, which maybe plays in all my friends' relationships as well, where the women just thought, hey, I've got a guy that's running that, I'll let him run that. Not that hands off, like with me and Shade is not hands off, we're fully on board, but then I'm sort of the one really coming up with those things and sharing those ideas. And then, and it would be unfair to say Shade doesn't bring ideas as well. Some of the investments and the moves we've made today has been driven by Shade saying, oh, should we do this? Should we do that? But I think it's just natural, right? In the sense that if you have someone that is already driving, and I'm very good at that. If Shade is driving something, I'm not interested in it, or I've got little interest. If I know that person is driving that thing very well, I'm not interested. So I guess maybe for some of these women, what they're finding is my husband is already sorting it, and it's not the case that he's just sorting it for himself. He's sorting it in such a way that each of us are secured for the future. Then you're thinking, why should I worry myself? I'll just get involved as much as I can, but without not necessarily carrying that burden on my head. Maybe that's how they view it, but then I don't know.
yeah. That's cool. That's interesting. And I really like the fact that you mentioned diversification, right? Because what I always tell people is, in as much as you're diversifying across different assets, geography is super, super important. And there is a lot of especially during the whole tariff thing, like other geographies perform better than the US. Because most of the time people like invest, they think, okay, yes, US has the biggest market when it comes to investing, but really other geographies is super important, but not just only the asset classes, but really geographical diversification. So I'm happy that you kind of mentioned that because it's always interesting to let people know that look, don't have this home bias, right? Okay, I live in the UK, I'll only invest in the UK. No, look at other geographies to kind of smooth out the risk with the potential return which is higher. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that. Right.
Yeah, and
I
there's
think
definitely.
no, continue.
I was going to say there's definitely strength in having your circle of friends where you're having those conversations. So whatever your circle of friends are, it could be the same. It could be the case that they will learn from you or you will learn from them. But that conversation needs to be had every now and again when you guys gather for whatever it is you gather for, even when you go for drinks. That conversation needs to come up around what are you guys doing? Or what are you doing? Or we did this yesterday. Oh, we are not doing it. That type of stuff. That conversation needs to be had because then that's where you learn and you cross you share. But then beyond your circle of friends is intentionally going out to seek knowledge as well to see what's out there. Maybe have a financial advisor or that type of thing. So because it is important to look after yourself, look after your family, and then look after your I guess offspring as well.
Exactly. Good. So yeah, thanks for that. So you kind of mentioned earlier that you like look after the expenses, the bills, and also kind of handling like variable expenses and things like that. So when it comes to like balancing individual spending desires with the family overall financial goals, so you kind of mentioned what happened, but yeah, that is fine. But how do you kind of balance your own spending desires? Like, do you have fund money allowances, and how do you ensure that it's fair? In the sense that you have the things separately, like you said, but you all look at, okay, this is your goal for the savings, and this is my goal for the saving. How do you then look at when it comes to fund family and allowances, but also kind of handling impulse purchases or
Yes,
unexpected expenses?
yes, yes. So I um, think one of the things I like to say and one of my beliefs in life is enjoy today, enjoy tomorrow. So what I mean by that is I'm not one that will say, "Oh, I'm saving all my money because I want to make sure I have a good retirement." Like, no, like I'm saving money for retirement, but I'm also keeping some to enjoy today, right?
Mm,
So there's definitely fun money for being squirreled away out of all those savings that I was saving and those investments to just enjoy.
mm,
Because why work hard and do all these things you're doing if you're not enjoying now with the children? There are some things you will enjoy in your 30s that if you get to do them in your 60s, it's not the same. So if you're not enjoying them in your 30s and you're doing it in your 60s because you have money in your 60s, you sort of missed out a bit, is my view. So, yep, there's fun money is the answer. And then with regards to being fair around what allowance we give to people, so again, I know my wife knows me. My wife would spend more than me if allowed. So, the allowance we have for spend money or wherever is definitely larger than mine. If you left me by myself, I would not spend a penny. I'll just buy my milk, my food, and I'll be at home. I'm happy that way. My wife, on the other hand, is different. So there's no point in us giving ourselves the same allowance. It doesn't make sense. And again, it's not fair because you're not letting that person really enjoy their life. So we've sort of broken out how much pocket money each person has based on that. So what he has is different to what I have. It's how we do. So again, it's grace and bringing grace into it, bringing love into it. Because ultimately, for me, that's my wife. I still want her to enjoy herself. I don't want to be this tyrant saying, "Oh yeah, we both have this amount to spend." It needs to be fair and all that. So fairness is let's get to a place where we're both happy, but at the same time we're still looking after the future. It's sort of how we've done it. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's really important because your kids are looking up to you, and both of you having fine accounting background, even though we're still working on that. It's really about raising like financially savvy kids, and I'm sure this is what you're doing. So, how do you teach your children about money, allowances, chores, and savings accounts?
Oh, we do. We do. No, we do. I'm just thinking about angle. For example, this morning when I was taking my kids to school, he said, "Dad, I need to know how much is in my bank account." you know, so we've started giving them letting them understand the concept of money. My older one understands it better than the younger one. And one of the ways we do that is they understand the concept of need and want. I've let them know
Mm,
that from the beginning. So I'm like, don't just come to me. I've told my kids from when they were young, like, don't ever point at something and say, I want that. Like, never do that with me because it's letting them appreciate things. So, with the way we sort of manage money in the house and let them start getting a feeling for money, investment, savings, expenses. We're sort of bringing them in. So we're explaining something to them around, this thing we're about to get for you. So one of the ways we've done that is, and I put this post on LinkedIn the other day. So when there are birthdays coming up, what you would normally get is all the aunties and uncles and grandmas and brothers, they all buy junk for them. And
Mm-hmm.
everything looks flashy. They open it up on the birthday, everybody's excited. But then give it 5 days, right? And all those things is somewhere under the bed, somewhere under the chairs, gone. And it got me thinking, that's real money being thrown away. So what we then did, it's been a few years now, we came to that conclusion of don't buy stuff for our kids. If you want to buy stuff for them, give us that money. We'll save that money for them. We'll buy stuff for our kids based on what we think they need. And now, and that's why my kid was asking me how much do I have in my bank account, because now he has money. So he now gets it around, because I told him if they buy you this stuff, you use it for 5, and he got it. Especially the older one, as I said, you use it for 5 days, and that's you. But now you have money in your account. So now if you want something or if you need something, so my son is in sport. So he's now thinking, oh, dad, I think I need new football boots. So, and that was why I was asking me, how much do I have in my account? So I can start deciding how much football boots I should buy and stuff. So we're teaching them that slowly, but surely. So,
Mm.
and also at some point, we then start teaching them around the heavier stuff around investments and all that. But for now, it's saving and increasing the value of money that we're trying to get them to understand, which they are grasping
Yeah.
slowly but surely.
Yeah. I mean that it's really important that at least you've started having that conversation early with them, because when we this is where they kind of start developing their money script. So we have a money script by the time we're 7, right? So I'm sure you started with them earlier, and now that they're a bit older, they kind of understand it, and like you said, the value of money, okay, the differences between wants and needs, but also
Mm.
kind of discussing like, okay, budgeting now, it's more like saving, instead of having all this flashy present that they forget about, like you said, in 5 days time, right? Why not put this money towards saving, and then gradually introducing the concepts of investing with them. So this is it's really cool,
And
and I
yeah,
commend
and
you for
even
starting early with
yeah,
them.
and even things like is it piggy bank or piggyback or whatever that word is. I So I smashed that idea a few years ago, because I again teaching them around, if someone gives you £1 and you put it in this piggy bank, if you open this piggy bank 50 years from now, there will be £1 in it. But we take that £1, put it in the bank. So for example, now my son understands the concept of interest, because all the money is
Amazing.
getting from the
I love
is not
it.
bank, and now he knows that money is growing instead of sitting
Mm,
in a piggy bank. So there's no piggy bank in my house now. My kids don't believe in it. They actually think it's stupid to leave your money in piggy bank when it can be earning you interest. So again, it's those simple things that we can easily introduce them to, and they can see it in real life, and
mm.
they get it.
I
So
love it.
yeah,
Love it, love it. So what would you say what are some of the most important financial lessons you want to impart on your children?
I want them, just as I said, I want them to look at money as just a means to an end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Money is there as something that helps life a bit more enjoyable, or that helps make life a bit more enjoyable. So because sometimes what we do as humans, and I see people that do this every day, they they don't subscribe to that my own concept of enjoy today, enjoy tomorrow. So
Mm,
they really save, they go hard, and they are really tight on themselves on the basis of, I'm just gonna really go hard till I'm 50 or till I'm 55, and then I'll start enjoying. But then you could die at 54, just a year before you start enjoying. And then there are those on the other end of that extreme, where there's no concept of savings or thinking of the future. They're just enjoying everything now. So what I'm trying to teach them is, and it's something we say in the house as well. If you ask my kid now, if I say enjoy now, he'll finish it with enjoy tomorrow. So they get
mhm,
that concept around, we need to put something away for tomorrow, but then we shouldn't inconvenience ourselves today as well. So let's enjoy every day. So
mm,
that's They can take that general concept, they can use it across a lot of things around investment, savings, expense management, one need, they can apply it to all those things. So that's one thing I want to leave them with, and I'm hoping I'm leaving them with. And just and I always tell my wife, I'm like, listen, my kids, and this is not bragging, I'm like, my kids are my kids. So think they're gonna turn out okay if they grow up with me because of the way I think, the way I do things, and the things they are seeing, and the way I'm teaching them. I think they'll be okay financially. By the time they are leaving the house, whenever that is, they would have picked up so much from me that they can go on and um and enjoy life. I picked some things from my parents as well. I dropped some that I think I don't subscribe to, but the good things from my parents, I picked it around money management, and I brought that into my family as they go on their journey as well. Hopefully, they'll pick the best from mine and they can add other good stuff to it and continue their journey as well. So that's one thing I want to leave them with.
Amazing, amazing. And this really goes into your family values, like how it really influences your financial decisions and also ultimately passing that on to the kids. So what I want to touch up now, right? Okay, you've got two kids, right? And you've kind of mentioned that they're your kids and they will like uh them growing up really like you imparting this good family values but also good money values into them when it comes to okay understanding the differences between wants and needs and also understanding like savings and very soon like investing. So when it comes to the long-term financial planning, it's really really important, right? Because you've got two kids and it's really important to have wills and estate planning in place, right? So how do you handle like estate planning or even life insurance, bearing in mind that you have dependents, like you have your wife and also you have two kids? How do you handle that for a long-term financial planning?
Yep, I think everything you mentioned there is are things we do. So there are wills for if this should happen, this should happen, right? There are insurances in place, different kinds of insurance for in case this happens, this should automatically kick off. And then also for the kids specifically, we've got a pension account for them already, which a lot of people in the UK don't are not aware of. So they've got a pension account that's already getting serviced since they were kids or since they were babies, so that by the time they are 60, or I think by the time they get old, they'll probably be retiring at the age of 80 in their time with the way the world is going. So by the time they are 80 or 70, that pot would have really grown just because of
Amazing.
compounding and everything that would happen to it. And then also, we are hoping we can support them when they start life, when they go out into the world and maybe want to get their first house and all that. Some of the things we didn't get the opportunity. Our parents tried their best to get us to where they got us to. So it's
Mhm.
around, okay, you've gotten us there. How do we take it to the next level for our kids? So those are the things we're trying to build for us, for ourselves, and for each of us as well. Should something happen to Shade, I'm taking care of. Should something happen to me, Shade and the kids are taken care of, and so on and so forth. So there's um all these systems built such that hopefully things will be okay. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I'm going to bring my beliefs into it as well. I'm a Christian and I believe in God. I believe in the Bible. I believe in the teachings of Christ around, do not be anxious for anything, right? Don't
Hmm.
worry about anything. That was actually the passage we're reading today when we did our Bible study this morning. Like, just bring everything to God in prayer. So again,
Hmm.
even though we're putting all these plans into place, and again, there's something in my belief around it. It's not really just it's everything is not down to your works. Ultimately, it's the grace of God. The race. There's a place in the Bible that says the race is not to the swift. So, as I've said, we've got all these amazing plans in place, but everything can still go to crap. Sorry,
Hmm.
I'm using that. Everything can still fail. From
It's
my
fine.
point of view, if, if, if Christ that I believe in is not involved, so ultimately I still put everything to Christ that, Lord Jesus, take care of everything. We've done what we can
Yeah.
humanly, but we're now
Mm.
leaving it into your hands, take care of us, look after us, make sure these things, those human elements we put in place, help us so that they don't fail. Because ultimately, you can plan all you want, but if according to my belief, if the Lord is not with you and the Lord is not, helping you water those seeds, then you will suffer. A lot of people, if you hear stories of people, a lot of people do plan for the future. If you listen to people's story, a lot of people suffering today, they plan for the future when they were younger, and they're still
Mm,
suffering today. And this is not to say they were not smart or they were not wise. It's just it's not really in our hands ultimately. It's ultimately in the hands of God. So that again, that's something we teach our children around. Do everything you can do humanly, but just know. Don't ever
yeah.
rely on your own intelligence, on your own wisdom. Always put everything to God ultimately. Like, God, I've done my bit. I leave it in your hands. Please take it from here, type of thing. So again, that's something we do as a family, and that's something we're teaching the kids around life and around
Yeah.
money and around planning for the future.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's super interesting to hear. Like some people might not believe in God, or they believe like, okay, in universe, there's always that thing about the higher power, right? So it's not just like down to the individual. There's always like this higher power that would kind of like help you, guide you across the whatever planning you have, but always having a belief in something. So it might not necessarily be like religious, but also kind of spiritual as well. So thanks for kind of like what guides you basically, and also just quoting some parts of your own kind of belief and how that helps as well. Very interesting, and thanks for sharing that. But what advice would you give to other families that are struggling with money conversations? Because I feel like you have it in place, right? So when it comes to your family, like discussing with your wife, but also with your kids, what advice would you give to others that are trying to like improve their financial communication or struggle with money conversation within the family?
There are I'll trade a few pieces and a few pieces in there again based on conversations I've had with friends and people I know and that have struggled and what they've done. So I've got a couple who struggled a lot at the beginning of their marriage around money management and all that. And one of the things they did was they sought out a therapist or a someone to to guide and advise them, and that helps them to a better place. Not perfect; it will never be perfect, but that helps them sort of cross some hurdles. So consider speaking to um, a specialist or someone that can help you guys around sort of the therapy side of it. There's also sorry, there's something in again some in my Bible or my belief that says if the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do, right? Some
Mm,
relationships, the foundation of some relationships are just really messed up to the point where it's almost irreparable. If you look at it, you just think there's no hope here, and that may sound hopeless, but sometimes it is what it is, right? But for couples struggling with it, and where there's still hope and there's potential to fix, I would say just start where you are. Look
mm,
at where you are. So, for example, if you guys are willing, or the couple or the family are willing to move forward, let's take stock. Okay, we've not been speaking about money for a long time, or we've damaged our finances all these years or all these months. Let's look at where we are. Let's
mm,
understand where we are, and then let's look at what good looks like. Let's both agree what good looks like, and let's start planning towards a future. And there's that thing around accountability as well. If you guys as a couple feel you need an external person to be accountable to, that can sort of oversee, maybe not oversee, but accountability bit, then that's something you should consider as well. Maybe get someone through the community you exist in, or through a religious organization you exist with, or whichever, whoever you can trust to be accountable to say, you guys, you know what, we're trying to get to this goal, hold us accountable. Because for some people it's easier, right? And for
mm,
some people, so even though managing finances, maybe it's easier for me and my wife compared to some people, there are some things we'll struggle with that are easier for some. So it's
yeah.
around, if you think money is one of the challenges, I mean, money is one of the reasons why people divorce. I'm sure you know
Mm,
that already, Rukayat. So before you get to that point where you're thinking this relationship is not going to work, then let's try and find out, try, if you guys really want to be together and you want to enjoy your marriage and enjoy, parenting and all that, take stock of
yeah.
where you are agree that
mm,
the current state doesn't work, and then try and
mm,
plan out what good looks like. If you need to speak to people for guidance, then speak to those people. If you see some couples that I think we love the way they are running their stuff, then be open. Sometimes you need to be vulnerable. Go to them. There are times when myself and Chad have been vulnerable and just told people, you know what, we love what you're doing.
mm,
Can you show us how you do it? And most people will probably say yes. They will see it as a privilege or as an honor to be sought advice from. So, seek advice, speak to people, tell them, we love what you're doing. Can you show us how you've done it? If we need to pay for it, and try and get yourself out of where you are onto a path that works. And having a goal helps for us as a family. There's always a goal.
yeah.
If there's no goal, all our money will be fun money. So having a goal definitely helps, because then that sets your mindset around, we're trying to get to that thing by 2020, whatever. And then that helps when you're making the sacrifices. It makes sense in your head because we're going to that goal. So as a family, we've always had a goal. After I bought our first house, then there was the next goal. Even though it was more relaxed this time, we were able to enjoy more, but there was still a
Mm,
goal, because without a goal, you could make 5K and spend it and think you needed to spend that 5K. But if you have a goal, you could make 5K and save 3K and spend 2K. So yep, have a goal.
mm. Super. I think goal is definitely one of the most important takeaways. But can you tell me, okay, what are the other important takeaways you've learned from your family's financial journey that you can kind of share with key
Yep,
learnings for our listeners? Yeah.
yep, absolutely. I mean, for those that are not married, maybe this is good for those that are not married yet. Definitely get on the same page before you get married. People
Mm,
don't, and I've shared this publicly as well. I'm a very logical, analytical type of guy. So before I got married, we had these conversations around money, around where everybody was money wise, so that when we got together, we knew where we're going, type of thing. So if you've not gotten married, don't just say I love you. Try and understand what people are bringing to the table, not just
mm.
how much income they're bringing, but also how much debt, how much bad credits, if any, they're bringing to the table before you start your marriage. And also, then when you get into marriage, for all some of the things that has helped us, or that I've learned over the years, is show compassion, be graceful to the other person. Ultimately, you guys are in love, or you love each other. So that comes first before trying to save or trying to invest and all those things. So always cherish that and let that be at the center of everything you're doing. Just as I said with myself and Shade, our pocket money is bigger than mine, because that makes sense. And that, again, that's coming from a place of, I appreciate that you need to spend more money than I do. So yeah, you have more money. So don't be too clinical with the way you do things. And maybe this is more for men. Don't be too clinical. Some men are really clinical. So apply grace, and then just make it fun. If possible, if there's a way you can do it, make it fun. So even though we make sacrifices here and there, we
Yeah.
still then have those fun moments, which for us is the travel, the trips, the
Mm,
treats, the pizzas, the all those things, to the point where you don't feel like you're just giving and giving and giving and you're not getting anything back. So make it fun, and involve the kids as well. So for us as a family, we pray about our finances as well as part of our daily prayer. So the kids are already involved. And again, that's something I learned from my parents. So the kids know the
amazing.
things we are targeting as a family. So even when they are doing their own personal prayer, they are praying along. And when they want to ask for stuff, they are factoring in the fact that, oh, I know you guys, I know that you're trying, not to share what our targets are. I know you and mom are trying to do this, but is it possible to still? So they've got that in their mind, and that helps shape how they look at money and how they even want to spend the family's money. So those are some of
Mm,
the things I would say I've learned over the year. But most
mm,
importantly, it's get the foundation right. If you're not married, but if you're married, apply grace. Remember, you love each other first, and
yeah.
just set those goals and try and hit them as much as you can, and surround yourself with the right circle as well. That has helped us significantly. Our circle of friends, some of the things we do today is basically, this person said that, this person said that. And most of it has not been things that just originated from my head. I've just heard someone do it and I think, yeah, that's a good
Mm,
idea. Let's do it.
yeah.
Or Shade has heard someone do it and then she's brought it in. So surround yourself with the right people. They may not
Yes.
necessarily be your age mate. They may be people older than you. So go into those circles and see those bigger, I mean, older guys and older ladies that you think are doing well, and speak to them and say, I love what you're doing. Can you show us what you've done when you were in your 30s, when you're in your 20s, so we can be doing those things as well, so that we don't make any mistakes along the way.
Mm.
So yeah.
Amazing. I was smiling away when you're talking about the prayer aspect, because you know I have a daughter Zara. So each time she's like, "Mommy, let's pray, let's pray." Now she'll be like, "Okay, may God give us wisdom, power, knowledge, wealth, money, love." It's so amazing at that age that she puts everything together, love, money, wealth, and then she says wisdom, power, and knowledge. So I was just smiling when you mentioned that you do that with your kids, and I just remember like every time Zara would just like, okay, mommy, I want to sleep now. Now let me do my own prayer with you. So it's just amazing what we kind of impart on the kids as well. So yeah,
And we also need to impact giving as well, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because everything you've got is not because you're the smartest. It's just, again, from
mm,
my own belief, it's just favor, right?
yeah, yeah,
The money I earn today, there were people that were smarter than me in school that are not earning similar incomes. I just feel I've been favored. So because I've been favored, what can I do
yes,
back? So it's around giving, letting your kids know the value of giving, and then actually practicing it so that they can see it, so that they can do it as well when they get the opportunity to give. And it's not just giving money, giving their time, giving their kindness. Just the whole concept of giving is really
yes,
powerful. You can't just
yeah,
make money, just keep everything to yourself. You've got to let some go, and
yeah.
do it visibly, so your kids can see you doing it, so that they can then emulate that in their journey as well. When they go to school, when they're in the playground, they can emulate giving.
Exactly, exactly, and it's all about the wisdom aspect of it, right? How to impart that wisdom to them, and as I always say, you get what you give at the end of the day, right? So it's always imparting that knowledge onto the kids as well, which is super amazing. Where can our listeners find you online, Enoch?
Oh, okay. So I've got a LinkedIn account, so it's Enoch. My name Enoch Adeyemi, and I've got a website because I do a lot of things, including public speaking. So I've got a website which is my name EnochAdeyemi.com. I'm on Instagram as well, Up Classic. But where I post most of my thoughts is on LinkedIn. So if you just look for Academy on LinkedIn, hopefully you can find me, connect with me. And if I've said anything that you like or you want to dig into, just send me a message and I'll try to get to it at some point, and hopefully we can schedule time to have a conversation. But really you should be speaking to Rukayat. She's the expert at it. Or if you come to me, I'll pass you on to Rukayat. Rukayat, there you go. But yeah, that's where you can find me. So I am visibly online. So yeah, connect.
Super. Enoch, this has been such an honest and illuminating conversation about family finance. Thank you so much for being open and just giving grace as well, like you mentioned, and your insights really on the importance of like regular money talks, but also when it comes to balancing your own individual needs, right, with the family goals, but also incorporating compassion, grace in it as well has been really, really incredibly valuable. And it just really highlights that while money can be complex, approaching it as a team really makes all the difference, and also just imparting that and getting the children included as well. So thank you so much for opening up and sharing your family experiences with us today. And I know that our listeners will find immense value and relatability to your stories. Thank you, Enoch.
You're
And
welcome.
to all our listeners, please remember that whether it is kind of like your first money journey, your first investment, overcoming like feelings, or even navigating family finances as a team, building financial confidence often starts with open conversation and taking that first step, like Enoch mentioned. And if you're really looking for like professional guidance or personalized guidance to help you and your family manage your money, set clear goals, and build a secure financial future, then do know that Bishop Invest is here to support you. And Enoch has mentioned that again. Thank you for mentioning it. And we help everyday people like you gain clarity, confidence, and just let us know how we can help you. And I'm going to put in Enoch's link on this podcast so that you can feel free to reach out to him. He's an amazing, amazing human being. So don't be afraid to reach out. And if you have any questions, just let him know. So join us next time on Money Conversations with Everyday People for more real stories and practical insights into really navigating your financial life. Thank you so much, Enoch.
You're welcome.